I'm gonna be honest, the intro is like 4 minutes long, so skip to like right here if you don't want to hear me yap. So I owe Webtoons an apology. You see, back in 2018, I thought all they had interesting was Unordinary, and beyond that, I thought it was only romance, drama, and comedy, and I wasn't interested in any of it. But now, it's full of great stories, but only a few, and in my opinion, being extremely blunt, Webtoons has the same issues that manga does. Some creators can't stop writing the same stories over and over again. For example, the novel version of Solo Leveling came out in 2016 and then was illustrated in 2018, and ever since then, several creators use its same concepts. City setting, monsters pour out from gates, or the MC goes into a gate to fight monsters. There's a system window that helps the MC become stronger than everyone else, and not only that, they copy his player build. Do you know how many Sung Jin Woo clones use 2 daggers and necromancy? A lot. I didn't actually count. But where's the creativity? Where's the uniqueness? Why does no one have holy powers or fire power? The holy powers thing is more of a personal opinion. I'd really like to see a character in this setting with some holy magic and just a different build entirely. Why does every MC have to use the same build? To put this in a more specific way, a lot of the characters I see with the status screen always follow the same roadmap. Oh, this character can use magic. Oh, he can also use a sword. Oh, he also has a skill that lets him move really fast. Wait, isn't this like the other guy? None of these characters are unique. They all can use a sword. They're all a master of magic. It's really just a personal opinion, but it'd be way cooler if they could only use one. Like, let's say a character is really good at magic, but he sucks when it comes to physical combat. And it's very typical in tropes, but let's say there's another character who's really good at using a sword, but sucks at using magic. It becomes interesting at that point because they have limits that they have to overcome with what they have, and I really like that trope for that particular reason. And it's not to say it's impossible for a character to be both, as magical knights are totally a class, but they're always half proficient in both, using magic to augment their attack power with a few flashy spells here and there. There's even a manga that I read called either Infinity Mage or Infinite Mage, whichever you prefer, that has something similar to this. Mages in this world have to dive into the spirit zone and erase their own presence in order to use magic, and in order to strengthen themselves for physical combat, they have to use their schema, which is the spirit zone of the swordsmanship world, where instead of erasing themselves, they dig into themselves, making magic and swordsmanship polar opposites, meaning the characters have to invest into one particular school. I just realized that this is the 3rd time I had this written down in the script, but this is all just really a personal opinion. It'd be really cool if they at least did something different. Make your character a brawler or an archer or something. Proficiencies in areas like this always create interesting limitations to what a character can do, and it just feels like not a lot of thought goes into creating the characters and the stories. Solo Leveling really did set the stage for a lot of these stories, and I could be wrong as this research I did took like 5 minutes, so. The regression trope also shares this problem, but I believe regression is the most human type of story. I'm sure plenty of us can sympathize and have said, if I can just go back and change this, or if only it didn't happen like this, which is why I understand why regression is so overused. It's a pretty decent story concept and can't really be written in a different way, as the perks of regression, as I'll call them, prevent regression stories from being written in a different way. Things like revenge, missed opportunities, and bad choices will always be present within a regression story, preventing it from being written in a different way. It is probably fundamentally impossible to write a unique regression story without replication being present in at least some part of the story. The most typical plot twist is usually something changing and not aligning with the main character's memory, forcing them to adapt and change themselves. The only way a regression story could be written uniquely is if regression is only present within the characters and their memories, but also unknown to the reader's 3rd-person view, but only present within the world. An example would be, let's say our character was rich and suddenly they've regressed without knowledge and are now poor with someone else in their place, with the only evidence they have being family records and other physical evidence of their once elevated position. Long story short, the character would wake up poor with physical evidence that they were once rich, and they would use this evidence to gain back their position. But that's enough of my yapping. This real video is about like some stories that I really like on Webtoons, because there are some very interesting stories despite all the replication I see, and I just want to talk about them. So here we go. Alright, so I want to start with Caster, because out of everything I'll talk about today, this one is the shortest and simplest. It's really different in style and tone compared to the others, and I think that's what made it so memorable for me. Caster is a short series which totally caught me off guard at first. When I first started reading it, I assumed it was ongoing and remember thinking, wait, is this gonna end soon? And I panicked a little because I thought there wouldn't be much to say about it, but then I realized it's actually a complete story with just 30 chapters that ended in 2019, and honestly, it uses that limited space really well. The story follows a man named Caster, that's his actual name, who works as an antiques dealer. The story starts off with him leaving a lady named Sasha's house after watching Shrek Forever After, with him needing to hurry before they show up, only just now realizing Sasha threw his clothes out the window. Castor is being chased because of the artifact he sold, so the story starts off with him running through this frozen town with only a few scraps of clothing and a Santa hat. He needs this artifact so he can gift it to Mr. Nishimura, who is the father of one of Castor's late friends. In the beginning, to sum it up quickly, Castor recovers a mysterious artifact that was meant to be a gift for Mr. Nishimura's late daughter, and that already adds a bunch of emotional depth to the story, but it turns out this artifact is just one piece of something much bigger, and that mystery starts pulling you in right away. What I really appreciated about Castor is how it breaks from what I usually read. It's a more grounded, character-driven story with just enough of that mystical edge to keep things intriguing. Castor himself is such an interesting protagonist. He's rugged, layered, and you slowly start to understand him through little moments like the story about his father. There's this one scene where Castor explains how his dad gave him a loaded dice before leaving him permanently. He told him every time it lands on 3, it means I'm looking out for you. It's such a simple but powerful way to show how much he longed for connection, even if it was through something as unreliable as a loaded. And then there's Lewis. I feel for Lewis, and I think anyone who reads this will too. I won't spoil too much about his role in the story because I think it's better if you experience that part for yourself, but just know that there's a real emotional core there. Castor is a super solid read. It ended back in 2019, and while there's not a ton of content, like I said before, it's super solid. And if you're looking for something quick, unique, with some mystery and depth, I definitely recommend checking it out. On to the next one. Alright, this next one is Black Sun, and it is pretty much one of my favorites so far. It's really good. And at the very start of the story, Yu is in the middle of being born. Both his parents are shinobi, and they are ambushed during childbirth, and Yu's father has to fight off a demon. While his mother manages to get away despite being in the middle of birthing a child, his father doesn't, which is what I thought happened, but after reading back, he's just not in the story anymore. I don't know where he is. From there, the story follows Yu and his mother as they live somewhere peacefully. Yu is now 13 and it's actually his birthday, but Yu's life takes another tragic turn when they're attacked again. The second attack becomes the final push for Yu as his mother actually dies this time. I read back just to make sure, and it solidifies his resolve to become a shinobi just like his parents. Reading Black Sun honestly gave me classic Naruto vibes in the best way possible. I always felt like Naruto did a great job of, I wouldn't necessarily say fleshing out his characters, because some of them are pretty bare bones, but it did excel in giving them unique techniques related to their clans and flaws. And Black Sun nails that same energy. Every character you meet feels distinct, and the same way the story handles their growth and development is just so satisfying. One thing I really do love about this series is the training arc. It's surprisingly long, and that's actually pretty refreshing. These days, a lot of protagonists seem to just stumble into power or get a sudden power up, but in this series, you actually see the process and the progress for learning ninjutsu and where their enhanced strength comes from, and every mentor he meets teaches him something different. You really see him evolve both in terms of skill and mindset. It's that kind of slow, earned progression that I feel a lot of modern series skip over, and Black Sun does it so well. The power system is another standout. It revolves around something called Tenchi, which characters can harness to boost their physical and spiritual abilities, becoming faster, stronger, and more in tune with the world around them. This is where some of those elemental abilities stem from, but they actually can come from another source, from these weapons called Devourers, swords that are used to exorcise demons and contain their energy. And those swords, they have another power that I'm not even going to spoil for you because I want you to see it yourself because it's just that cool. There's a lot to love about Black Sun: the action, the world building, the emotional stakes, and the sense of growth and purpose in Yu's journey. If you're into series with strong characters, then Black Sun is for you. On to the next one. I was actually recommended this a while ago, and I'm pretty sure most of you have already seen or at least heard about it, and it's called Ordeal. Ordeal stands out immediately with its incredibly rich artwork. I know this might sound like a bit of a hot take, but in my experience, a lot of manga and webcomics tend to skimp on the details. Drawings just feel flat and bland, which drawings are flat because they're on paper or a part of a comic, but you know what I mean. You gotta understand exactly what I mean. But Ordeal, it blows that expectation out of the water. Illustration and coloring are phenomenal. Every panel feels alive, like you're watching an animated. It's moments like these with the moonlight shining down on all the characters. It looks so nice. But visuals aside, the story itself is what really pulls you in. Ordeal follows a man named Shay Hart. I'm not gonna lie, I kind of had trouble with it. At first I thought his name was Chi, or like Che, but then I realized that it's probably Shay. Anyhow, he's living in a world inhabited by Kimyos, individuals born with altered genes that give them special powers known as talents. These talents come in 3 main categories: element manipulation, body manipulation, and the rest of them all genetic manipulation, which trying to think of a better way to explain that. But basically, some characters can give themselves like an animal hide, and they'll have like really tough and durable skin. That's the best way to explain it. Only thing is, Shay doesn't have a talent. Like I said before, I really like this trope. Shay starts off as just a really skilled boxer using raw technique, sheer willpower, and grit to take down an opponent who on paper should really outmatch him. Doesn't really last long. He does eventually gain a talent, but the story is still pretty cool. The combat in Ordeal is top notch. Every fight feels intense, well thought out, and visually explosive. And the characters, super unique. Everyone brings something different to the table. The way their powers interact with their personalities and backstories adds a lot of depth. But yeah, this one was recommended to me a while ago, so shout out to this guy. And I hope you guys, if you haven't heard about it, totally give it a read. On to the next one. Hey, this is me. I'm in the middle of doing everything, so I just want to make a quick message. Right in between these two segments, I changed the way I'm putting the panels. See, the panels are a little hard to like grab, to be honest, which is why some of them are smaller. In fact, I had to screenshot some of them from my phone because I couldn't really get them on my computer, which is really shitty. But basically, instead of just putting each panel like individually on the track, which is kind of hard to show you, I just made a separate video for each panel. So instead of directly showing you exactly, there is just a video that is just showing a bunch of panels. It's just me talking about it. Like I said, nothing changes, but yeah, that's all. Alright, this next one is Bad Born Blood, and this series is pretty good. I don't usually dive into sci-fi stories, but I really did like this one. Bad Born Blood is set in a distant future on a planet called Novus, which literally means new home. It's humanity's last refuge after Earth was obliterated by a mysterious alien race no one really understands yet. Novus is divided into 3 powerful factions, each with its own culture, goals, and twisted sense of order. There's the Balado Federation, a melting pot of alien species where Earthlings actually make up majority of the population. You've got the Acretia Empire, a brutal militaristic regime of cybernetic soldiers. Their whole identity revolves around discipline, control, and strength. And finally, the Core Alliance, a deeply spiritual faction where priests wield an energy called force using only their minds. Factions are locked in a relentless war over scarce resources with no clear good or bad guys, just different shades of power-hungry, desperate survival. The story follows Luca, a young soldier from the Acretia Empire. What makes his story hit hard is where he comes from. He's not just some chosen one or a rich heir. He's from the slums, the very bottom of the food chain, and he had to fight tooth and nail just to earn a spot in the Empire's ruthless military. And even then, his struggles don't stop. In the Acretia Empire, control goes so deep that they can literally scan your brain for rebellious thoughts or lingering regrets. There's no real freedom even for the soldiers who fight for them. What really sets this series apart for me is the setting. It doesn't feel like a recycled sci-fi backdrop. It's gritty, raw, and constantly evolving. The way the politics and power dynamics play out feels real and layered, and the visuals are just next level. Plus the emotional weight of Luca's journey, his grit, his determination, his slow climb through a world that wants to crush him. It's all done so well. This series is still ongoing, and honestly it feels like it's just starting to hit its stride. If you're into world building, underdog stories, or just want something different from your usual manhwa, Bad Born Blood is exactly what you need. On to the next one. Alright, this next one, easily one of my top favorites, hands down. It's called Light of a Rad Forerunner, and let me just say, this story caught me off guard in the best way possible. Light of a Rad is set in this rich, immersive world called a Rad. Think magic, epic monsters, breathtaking landscapes, and a whole variety of races and cultures that make the world feel genuinely alive. The characters are incredibly expressive, the kind that really stick with you. Every interaction feels meaningful, and the world building is just a chef's kiss. But here's the thing. It's all a video game. It's actually the setting of a massively popular MMORPG called Dungeon & Fighter. Yep, it's a video game world. And our main character, Jin Seong Baek, is just a regular guy in the real world, a longtime DNF player and a pretty well-known streamer. The story kicks off with a whole lot of action and this guy named Ranger fighting a boss. And Jin Seong ruins his fight by intervening. This causes Ranger to be blasted by the boss, leaving him absolutely baked. Ranger curses Jin Seong as if he actually just ruined his life. This leaves Jin Seong thinking that Ranger was just taking roleplay way too seriously, but from our perspective, we see that something else happened to Ranger. Seconds after ruining this fight, Jin Seong is also sucked into the game as punishment by the game's goddess and has his role explained to him. Now here's where it gets really interesting. Instead of becoming some overpowered hero, Jin Seong is assigned the role of a bug fixer. Basically, he's responsible for tracking down these mysterious glitches called contaminations that are throwing the game world off script. It's like he's the janitor of the in-game universe, but way cooler. He actually becomes his in-game character and has to keep everything running smoothly. And that's the heart of it. Because in the game, NPCs aren't just lines of code. They're alive with emotions, memories, and stories of their own. Jin Seong even gets emotionally attached to one of them. But here's the dilemma. If he changes the story to protect them, he risks breaking the canon and unraveling the game itself. So now he's stuck in this impossible choice. Follow the script and maintain the world, or rewrite it for the sake of the people who, unironically, aren't even real. It's wild too, because even though he's in the game, he still looks like a player. When he talks to himself, it shows up like chat messages, which makes the whole thing even funnier. He basically became the obnoxious role player he used to make fun of, but now he has to take it seriously. The world of Light of a Rad is so full of depth that you forget it's a game, just like Jin Xiang does. It hits hard because suddenly Jin Xiang's purpose isn't just to play anymore, it's to protect the world from falling apart. Even if that means sacrificing his own feelings. It's got heart, humor, action, and a big ol' existential crisis wrapped up in a digital fantasy. You should totally read it, and on to the next one. Alright, this next story shifts gears in a big way. It's heavier, more emotional, and carries a somber tone throughout. It's called Datalus of Crows. This story follows our main character, Carrion. That's not his birth name, it's a title he earned from making a desperate deal with a god. His wish is to bring back his closest friend, Ariana, who died a plot device death, and in exchange, he must compete in a brutal series of divine trials where only one person can make it to the end, and he has to be the last one standing if he ever wants the slightest chance of seeing her again. What makes Datalus of Crows really compelling is the emotional journey Carrion goes through. At the beginning, he's quiet, withdrawn, and extremely wary of trusting anyone. You can feel the weight of grief and guilt pushing him down. But as the story progresses, you see him grow, not just in strength, but in spirit. He begins forming tentative connections, learning from others, even as he's haunted by the fact that only one can survive. There's also this fascinating layer of divine politics. Other gods don't trust Carrion because the one backing him. That stigma follows him, makes things harder, adds another obstacle he has to push through, but his focus never wavers. He keeps going, fueled by memories of Ariana and the promise he made to her. The trials themselves are super creative and intense. Some are like intricate escape rooms where participants have to search for specific objects to make it out. Others are more cerebral riddles where a single wrong answer can mean death. There's this constant tension and the stakes feel incredibly real to make things even more intense. Each contestant is given a unique gift, a divine power by their patron god. How they use it or don't can be the difference between survival and failure. But yeah, I don't want to spoil too much because I'm only halfway through it myself, and it's been a very, very decent story, and I hope you guys enjoyed as well. On to the next one. For the second to last story on this list, we've got one with the title that instantly grabbed my attention. My Best Friend is an Eldritch Horror. At first glance, I expected it to be a quirky modern comedy manga, maybe something lighthearted with supernatural elements, but to my surprise, it turned out to be a fantasy series that's not only genuinely funny, but also has some surprisingly heartfelt and creative world building. The story centers around a young boy named Damien Vale, whose biggest dream is to become a mage, but in this world, becoming a mage isn't just about talent or studying magic. You need to be bonded with a magical companion. These companions act as magical conduits, helping their mages channel and control their powers. Despite his mother's strict warning not to attempt the summoning ritual at such a young age, Damien's ambition gets the best of him. Driven by determination and maybe just a little bit of reckless curiosity, he sneaks off and performs the ritual in secret. At first, everything seems to go horribly wrong. What he ends up summoning is no ordinary familiar, it's an unfathomable, monstrous being that instantly kills Damien just by being perceived. But here's where things take a wild turn. The creature casually brings Damien back to life, saying, "Whoops, your soul tried to flee." That's the moment you realize the tone of this series is anything but ordinary. Damien tries to bargain with the creature and form a standard mage companion contract, but things don't go as planned. The entity, being the chaotic cosmic horror it is, tricks Damien and momentarily takes control of him. However, because of the ritual circle's restrictions, the creature can't leave, forcing them to renegotiate the terms of their deal. Eventually, they strike a compromise. Damien retains most of his autonomy while the entity introduces itself with the very unthreatening, hilariously normal name of Henry. What really makes this series shine is the dynamic between Damien and Henry. Their relationship is full of snark, sass, and chaotic back and forth banter. Henry is packed with a personality. Like, there's this one scene where Damien is taking a test that measures their power in the form of a flame. Henry decides to make Damien's flame tower over everyone else's, and when confronted, he deadpans, "If you're asking whether I made it larger on purpose, yes." Followed by the equally iconic, "Yes, I'm that petty." It's moments like that which really give me the Venom and Eddie Brock vibes. You know, the whole reluctant symbiosis thing, where two totally different beings are forced to coexist, bicker constantly, but somehow make it work. Watching two of them navigate mage school together with Henry's ancient cosmic power and Damien's teenage determination constantly clashing makes for a unique and genuinely entertaining ride. On to the next one. Man, you hear how this one was done so smooth. The other last three, for some reason, I just lost the ability to speak English. I was stuttering so much on the last one, I can't believe it. Anyways, alright, this is the final story. And I had a thought. If all I talk about is action fantasy, this video would be boring, especially when there are so many other types of stories. So I had another thought. I like romance. I watch a good 90s or 80s romance comedy movie every once in a while. Now for the final story I've got for you. The Key Sisters. This one's a total shift in tone from the last. It's lighthearted, ridiculously funny, and honestly just such a joy to read. I've been loving it every second of it. So if you haven't heard of it already, The Key Sisters follows the chaotic, hilarious lives of 4 sisters living under the same roof. The eldest, Jang Neo, kind of runs the house like an unspoken matriarch, strict, dramatic, and endlessly entertaining, but the story primarily focuses on the youngest sister, Jenny. The first chapter kicks things off with Jenny on a quest to find a boyfriend, and she's not winging it either. She's got this whole plan mapped out like a tactical mission. First, she needs a perfectly timed coincidence, then a moment of subtle fleeting eye contact, next a brief touch, like brushing hands by accident, and finally she seals the deal with a shy, demure smile. It's a flawless strategy executed with terrifying precision. What makes this series really stand out to me is the expressions. They're wild. Every panel is full of these incredibly exaggerated faces that just crack me up. One moment can go from serious to completely unhinged in the best way possible. The comedy is sharp and the timing is on point, and the randomness, absolute gold. Even though I'm not too deep into it yet, it's already one of my favorites. It's definitely up there with Black Sun and Light of a Rad. It's got that same level of charm and engagement I get from high stakes fantasy stories, but in a totally different flavor. If you're into quirky slice of life chaos and sisterhood with a side of madness, The Key Sisters is definitely worth checking out. I really hope you guys enjoyed this. This is literally one of my longest videos ever in this particular style. I really wanted to try my hardest not to like reveal too much of the stories, but leave enough to at least make you interested. I really hope you guys do, and we'll probably read some of them. And as always, I really hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope that you'll, subscribe, leave a like, help a brother out. And as always, I really want you to remember this.
Fear God, love Jesus.
Peace.
In case I don't see ya, good afternoon, good evening, and good night.